Hey, I'm Clipper. Want some help on your book?
I remember you back in the 90s. You were like the Microsoft Word assistant or something.
Me? No, that was Clippy. He was weak sauce. Let me read your manuscript.
It's just my first draft. I know it needs some work.
Need some work? Holy crap, this sucks! You suck! And you call yourself a writer.
Hey, I thought you were supposed to be helpful.
No wonder Clippy died. He probably read one of your books and decided it was easier to delete himself.
I don't need this from you.
Here, let me do you a favor.
What the crap? You just deleted my whole book!
You're welcome. Come back when you grow some talent.
Welcome back to Light-Minded Arts. I'm Brent Lindstrom, and today we're talking about editing. If you want me to go over a little bit about this short I just did, stick around till the end. Now let's get into editing. So you're finished with your first book now. Congratulations! You're through the hardest part, right?
Wrong.
My friend, you have just gotten started, because now it is time for the edit. So when you finish your first book, your first thought might be, let's run it through the spell checker, the grammar checker. Maybe once you're done with that, you send it to your parents to proofread it, or you send it to your best friend, or maybe even your English teacher. Guess what? This is the wrong approach. Do not do this. I have tried it. It does not work. Why doesn't it work? Because they are not looking for the things that you need to make your book amazing. That is why I always recommend a professional editor. Now, when you take it to a professional editor, they're going to ask you what kind of an edit you want. Maybe on their website, they will have a list of the different things they offer. I'm going to give you my process and my tips for getting your book edited the best it can be. So let's begin with step number 1. And you've already finished this one. You've written your book. Good job. Okay. Step number 2. You are going to edit your book. Obviously, this is before anyone else looks at it. You are going to go through it. And what are you doing during this one? You are fixing it. Why might you need to fix your book? We talked about that in the last episode on writing your first book. If you missed it, catch it there. Anyhow, why would you want to fix it? So if you're a plotter or a pantser, which I explained in that video, you are going to still have plot issues. Maybe you planned out your plot in advance, but maybe you got a little sidetracked here or there. Maybe your plot didn't quite work out once it was all finished. You need to go through and make sure that everything in your plot, everything in your structure actually feels right, sounds right, and is cohesive. This is hard to do because sometimes your plot changes while you're writing your book and you got to go through and edit things. I often have this happen to me. I'll come up with a plot before I ever begin. Then as I get writing, I get sidetracked. And then I get sidetracked again, and I just keep on writing because the trick is to get that first book out of the way. And this first edit is where you can fix all those issues. In some cases, this first edit is almost like rewriting your book. A lot of people will actually throw away the first draft and then start over again for this edit. I don't personally like to do it that way, but everyone has their process. So I go through and I do all the major changes, the major fixes that I can find. Get my plot all cleaned up, the structure as nice as I can get it. Step number 3, go through and add color. Now, when I go through and write my book, I'm trying to write the book as fast as I can. I'm trying to get through it. I'm trying to think mostly on what the story is and what's happening. But after I've gone through those first 2 steps, my book is still pretty much garbage. And that is because I have not added any color to my scenes. Now, what do I mean by adding color to my scenes? Well, in my blog, and you can read that on my website, I have an example posted there, and I'll read it for you. Okay, so young Jack and Jenny were walking down the busy street. Okay. We've got 2 characters, they're walking down a street, it's busy. I mean, it satisfies the need, it tells you what it needs to tell you, and for me, I know where they're going, and in my mind, I can picture what's happening because I'm writing the story, I'm imagining it. However, the reader needs a little bit more. Now, listen to this one and see how this sounds. Jenny paused a moment over one of the many rank-smelling sewer manholes. Not an ideal spot to stop along this crowded sidewalk, but the sound of tires and engines put her mama radar on full caution mode. Quick as a flash, she looped a finger in Jack's denim backpack to hold him back as a yellow taxi sped through the red light, causing men and women to shout, annoyed at the careless disregard for pedestrian traffic. "What'd I tell you about looking both ways, Jack?" she warned. Okay, so this is the color. This helps describe not only where they're at, but the relationship that Jenny has with Jack, it helps give some of the mindset that Jack might be in. And you're adding senses. You've got smell, you've got hearing, you've got a lot more colorful image for the reader to place them in the scene. And that's what I mean by adding color. I'm going through and finding everywhere I can to bring this story to life. All right, step number 4. Once I've gotten this as close as I can get it, then I send it off to my editor. There's a lot of freelance editors out there. Just do a Google search. I've used a bunch of different ones. They don't have to live near you. They can live on the opposite side of the country from you or in a different country altogether. My first editor was from one of the Carolinas. Then I had Dave Wolverton, or David Farland. You might recognize his name. He's a best-selling author. He also did some editing for me on one of my books. Currently, I'm using a different company that has a bunch of people in it that just do different kinds of editing, and I'm really happy with them too. Just go online, you'll find a bunch of people who do this kind of work. And when you do, they're going to ask you what kind of editing you want. For me, my first edit that I request is not a proof edit, even though I feel like I've done a really good job with my book at this point. I am asking for a copy edit. I'm asking for them to help me fix this book. So a copy edit, when that happens, the editor is going to go through and make a character sheet. They're going to put down all the information they can about your character to help flesh it out, to help make sure that your character is consistent throughout the entire book. And this is extremely helpful if you have a series, so it helps keep the characters consistent throughout multiple books. Another thing they're going to do in the copy edit is make sure that your plot works, that your structure works. They're going to make sure that things aren't distracting. I had one of my books once where the editor came back and said, "Hey, this character is awesome. However, they're distracting from the actual story. You need to cut them." Now, you probably heard that saying, cut your darlings, and it really is hard to do. But they're going to help you know who your darlings are that really need to get kicked out. When I get my copy back from a copy editor, I'm so excited because I read through it, and it's usually in a Word document for me. At least that's how I've gotten it back from most of the editors I've had. And every page and almost every paragraph, there's something that has been changed. And often there's comments on the side suggesting things that I maybe should do or at least consider doing. Now, you don't have to make every change that an editor suggests. You can accept the ones that they did do. Usually the ones that they do on their own are usually worth keeping, though I wouldn't guarantee it. I would still read them to make sure. But the suggestions are where I find a lot of the helpful comments coming in. They will suggest maybe this paragraph be deleted or this chapter go somewhere else. Maybe they'll help you with continuity issues. Say your main character, Jim, left the gym carrying a duffel bag, and he had something important in the duffel bag. Later on in your story, he pulls that important thing out of his backpack. See the problem? They often find those things for you that maybe you missed. Aside from those kind of edits and the plotting and structure edits, they will help you find spots where you didn't put enough color into your scene. They might give you some tips and tricks to help you figure out some of the things, kind of like what I've been giving you on that color thing, where they'll tell you, well, hey, give this a try, or maybe work on this a little bit. Unless you're a best-selling author, and maybe they still have this issue too, we all have blind spots. And we're always trying to work on something that we can improve on. Every single one of my books that I do, I am trying to improve on something that one of the editors told me I should probably be working on. And it helps my books go from being ugly trunk novels to being something that I am proud to put my name on and put out into the world. Okay, so step 4 and 5 kind of blended together. Step 4 was send it to the editor. Step 5 is edit it with the comments from the editor in mind. Step 6 for me is usually to put the book on a shelf. And I usually do this for a couple of months. Putting your book on a shelf for a couple of months and working on a different project really helps me to clear my mind. And then when I come back to the project for step number 7 is re-editing, I can usually see things more clearly and everything is nice, fresh, and new to me. I find that my fixes are more qualitative and I'm not so bored of my book. Once you've gone through and done this edit, the last step for me is proofreading, and proofreading can happen in a couple of different forms. One, you can send it back off to that editor and they can do a proof edit this time. This is also where you might want to send your book to that English teacher or that parent who's really good at English. But no matter who you send it off to or how many edits you get back from them, I would always go through and do multiple proofreads on my own. I'm sure you've read books from professional companies that have had the next to each other, and it's like, how did they miss that? The hard part about proofreading is that as you're reading, you tend to miss words. We don't always read all the words on the page. Our mind fills in the blanks and it helps us get through the page faster. So when you get caught up in the story, even if it's your own story, you're going to find that you're missing things. Other people will probably catch them when they're reading it, but you missed it and they had to read it and think you're unprofessional. That's why I like to do this multiple times. In fact, sometimes it even helps to go backwards through your book so that you don't get caught up in the story and you can see those errors more clearly. In the end, your book is always going to have some little tweak, some little thing that you can do better on it. And you've probably, by the end, read your book so many times, edited it so many times that you're just so tired and you feel like you're giving up on your book rather than finishing it. But that's when you know that you've done just about everything you can and that your book is ready to go out. Congratulations, you have finished editing your book. The next step will be publishing. That's a fun adventure. Stay tuned next time for that. And if you found this episode of Editing Your First Book helpful, please like and subscribe. And if you've been sticking around to hear about how I made that short at the very beginning, let's dive into that now. All right, this little short was inspired by the little paperclip dude from the Microsoft Word. I think it was Microsoft Word. I'm going to say it's a Microsoft Word. Back in the 90s. So I don't know if you remember him. If you're if you're a generation below me, you totally missed it because he wasn't around very long. But he was this cute little graphic of a paperclip who popped up on your screen and asked you if you needed any help editing whatever document you were working on. So kind of a little bit cute, but not really all that helpful, and I'm not surprised that he didn't last all that long. So this time we have recreated him, and he's got a little bit more attitude.
Hey, I'm Clipper. Want some help on your book?
All right, so Clipper, not to be confused with Clippy from the 90s, is from an AI-generated image that I put together. I basically asked Kling AI to make me a paperclip cartoon, similar to the Microsoft one. However, I had to go through a few different iterations to get to this guy. He's not quite what the Microsoft paperclip was, but you know, he's still a cute little paperclip helper. Then to animate him, I took that image and ran it through Kling again and had it make a 10-second clip where the prompt was to have the paperclip cartoon talking. Now the paperclip gave me a lot of good facial expressions and it kind of went back and forth. It was a cute little segment of the paperclip talking. When I went to do the lip sync feature on Kling, I could not get the lips to work because Kling is really good at making humans talk and sync up with your voice, but it's really bad at making abstract cartoons do the same thing, or animals. So it was unable to recognize a face on this little cartoon character. So rather than trying to make his lips work perfectly, I said, you know what? Cartoon talking is good enough. For voiceover, I decided not to use AI voiceover this time. I wasn't too happy with how that turned out the last time I tried it, so this time I did my own voiceover. So the Clippy cartoon here is actually voiced by me. I actually like doing cartoon voices, they're kind of fun. Then for the rest of it, I just did screen capture. All right, so I filmed this all by myself, obviously, while I was recovering from surgery. And to do that, I pulled out my trusty phone again. Just rested it on the blankets next to my bed, and we went for it. For lighting, I decided not to go too crazy on it, because over on this side, I've got some lighting from the side. It's coming in, kind of lighting me from the back. I probably could have used a little bit something, maybe pull me back from the background. However, since I was stuck in bed and filming this all by myself, I said, you know what? Close enough, doesn't really matter. I'll have a lot more videos in the future where I really do try to paint with light and make things a lot more cinematic. This one was just, it was clear, it was close enough.
My first draft, I know it needs some work.
Some work? Holy crap, this sucks! You suck! And you call yourself a writer.
And isn't that how we always feel when we finish our first draft or when we're going through it? It's like, almost feels like throw up on paper. And that's what editing is for. We're trying to take all of that quick stuff and then start making it into gold.
Probably read one of...
So to make the lips work, all I did was took different segments out of that 10-second clip of him talking and acting, and most of my segments where I actually voiced for him, they weren't over 5 seconds, and so he was able to scroll through and get something that matched close enough to his lips, and some of them I cut through, and you know, in the end it looked good. It's cartoon lips, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Come back when you grow some talent.
For For that one, I think I just used the camera on the laptop. Gave a good effect. All right, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Remember to like and subscribe. And next week, we are going to be talking about publishing. Should be fun. See you then.